Good evening, everyone, and thank you for those of you here and for those of you online for participating in Tarion's 2022 annual public meeting. My name is Nigel Belchamber, and I will be your moderator for the evening. I'll begin tonight's meeting with a land acknowledgement on behalf of Tarion. We want to acknowledge the Indigenous and ancestral lands on which all of the new homes in Ontario are built. Tarion's corporate office and this venue are located on the ancestral land shared by the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. Each year, Tarion holds an annual public meeting to provide highlights from the past year and an opportunity for participants to ask questions of its senior management. Tonight's meeting is a hybrid format, and it involves both participants in this room as well as over 350 people who are joining us from all parts of the province via live stream. We're pleased that this format makes it possible for people from some considerable distance to participate. The meeting is also being recorded, and its audio and video will be available on Tarion's website at a later date. To begin with, I'll introduce the Tarion senior leadership team here on the dais with me. On my immediate left is the chair of the Tarion Board of Directors, Harry Pandey. Next is Tarion President and CEO, Peter Balasubramanian. Beside him is Vice President of Warranty Services, Sophia Vlahakis. And finally, Vice President of Underwriting, Kevin Brody. For tonight's agenda, we're going to begin with remarks from Board Chair Harry Pandey, followed by a presentation from Edmund Lee, the Chief Financial Officer for Tarion, and finally remarks by CEO Peter Balasubramanian. But the majority of the evening will be devoted to the question and answer period, your portion of the meeting, whereby you get to ask questions of the executive. We're going to take questions from both people in the room and the people online. Those online can submit their questions to APM Tarion 2020, or excuse me, APM 2022 at tarion.com. That's APM 2022 at tarion.com. And those questions will be filtered into the evening, as well as the questions from people here. I should also point out that we have a number of Tarion Warranty Services representatives with us this evening. They're at the back of the room. If you turn around, you can see them standing at the back of the room. And they'll be available throughout the meeting if you have a specific question about your home, about your particular home. And they will meet with you just outside the room, and you're welcome to seek them out at any time, quite frankly, starting now if you wish. But I'm going to begin by introducing the board chair, Harry Pandey. Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Nigel. I would like to begin by thanking you all for joining us this evening, both those here in person and those joining us virtually. With the easing of health restrictions and following the government protocols, Tarion is able to offer this opportunity to hold our annual public meeting in person as well as online. 2021 marked my second year as the chair of Tarion's Board of Directors. It was another year of significant transformation and modernization of the organization. It is evident in Tarion's new governance structure and its alignment with the new mandate. I will focus my remarks on the execution of governance and strategic priorities and have our CEO, Peter Balasubramanian, highlight the key details of operational improvements. I'll begin with some context. As an administrative authority, we are a not-for-profit organization that operates in a self-sustaining and financially sound manner, independent of the industry. Tarion's mandate, established by the provincial government, is to administer the Ontario New Home Warranties Plan Act, under the oversight of the Ministry of Public and Business Service Delivery, which was formerly known as the Ministry of Government and Consumer Services. The Ontario New Home Warranties Plan Act is a consumer protection legislation. This legislation requires Ontario builders and vendors to provide certain warranties for newly built homes. Tarion administers the processes to support the warranty and protection program where builders are unable or unwilling to meet their legislated warranty obligations. The Tarion Board of Directors is responsible for the overall stewardship of the organization, including providing oversight and strategic direction of the organization. In 2021, Tarion implemented a new consumer-centric governance framework that also provides all our key stakeholders and independent qualified individuals the opportunity to participate on our board nomination process. Under our new framework, we restructured our board, first, reducing its size from 16 members to 12, and second, ensuring the majority of our board is composed of non-industry members that satisfy our stringent skill-based selection criteria. This has brought experienced and skilled members with expertise in such areas as finance, risk management, consumer protection, dispute resolution, technology, and corporate governance. In addition, we have formed a stakeholder committee as a standing committee of the board, and under it, we have embedded the newly structured Consumer Advisory Council and Industry Advisory Council. Both of these councils are made up of well-qualified non-board members and operate under the board-approved terms of reference that are publicly shared on our website. These councils are consulted regularly by the board, and they provide insights and feedback to the board on Tarion policies and initiatives before implementation. And they assist us by highlighting concerns and the perspectives of these stakeholder groups. You can find the profiles of our board members and the names of the council members on Tarion's website, along with a report on their respective activities in our 2021 annual report. The work of each of these councils has proven to be very useful. Effective February of 2021, several changes were made to the Ontario New Home Warranties Plan Act that impacted Tarion's operations. The most significant change was the separation of licensing responsibilities and establishment of a new regulatory authority and licensing body for new home builders and vendors. That authority is known as the Home Construction Regulatory Authority. In addition to licensing Ontario builders, this new regulator handles professional misconduct complaints about builders, as well as maintaining the Ontario Builder Directory. Tarion continues to maintain its responsibility for backstopping the warranty when builders fail to fulfill their warranty obligations, and for reviewing their plans to sell or build new homes. This new segregated organizational structure was designed to enhance fairness to homeowners and bring a greater transparency and accountability to the administration of the new home warranty and protection program that today's consumers expect. An additional legislative change was establishment of the New Home Ombuds Office under the board's direct oversight, with its own terms of reference, policy structure, and performance management with no reporting connection with Tarion's management. The New Home Ombuds Office is an independent, impartial, and confidential office that promotes fair dealings by Tarion with homeowners. It is a resource available free of charge to new homeowners who believe they have been treated unfairly or improperly. The new legislative change formally establishes Ombuds Office as a statutory requirement under the board's governance structure. A report on Ombuds Office activities is posted on the Ombuds website. Finally, Tarion's board worked closely with management and independent experts when needed in implementing the Auditor General's recommendations. In 2021, the Auditor General and her team returned to Tarion to verify our progress and confirmed an 86% completion on the recommendations. This was also confirmed by an independent audit firm that this in-person meeting represents the fulfillment of another one of the few remaining Auditor General's recommendations. We continue to make progress in implementation of the remaining recommendations by the Auditor General. To establish a strong foundation for Tarion's future, the board dedicated significant time and resources in developing its new vision, its mission, and values that set out our shared commitment to Ontario's new home buyers. These are also key influencers for the behaviors and corporate culture that will allow Tarion to deliver the best new home warranty and protection plan in the country. This in turn has informed the development of Tarion's strategic objectives and consumer-oriented performance and customer service expectations, which will guide the organization's operational excellence and business planning going forward. In closing, thank you again for taking time to join us for tonight's annual public meeting. Over to you, Nigel.
Thank you, Chair Pendy. Next, to provide an overview of the financial highlights and operational metrics, I'd like to introduce Edmund Lee, Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. His presentation was pre-recorded and will be shown on the two screens. So if we could have Mr. Lee's video, please.
Good day. I will begin my presentation with an overview of the enrollment figures for 2021. Similar to previous years, enrollments once again were strong, showing the continued growth and strength in new home construction. 2021 enrollment levels reached over 74,000, exceeding 2020 by 8%. Freehold enrollments reached over 40,000 in 21, exceeding 2020 by 20%, while condos were over 33,000 in 2021, declining by 4% from 2020. Total possessions reached over 56,000 in 2021 compared to 58,000 in 2020 due to the impact of COVID in leading to delayed closings. Total homes under warranty remained relatively stable, reaching over 395,000 homes and condos at the end of 2021, as compared with 394,000 homes at the end of 2020. Compensation paid to homeowners was $22.5 million in 2021, similar to 2020. Total claims paid is trending upwards over the past 5 years, amounting to $95 million, given the robust home building activity in the province, along with large freehold claims and condo element claims during 2021. As Tarion's claims resolution efforts intensified in response to robust industry activity, the corporation set aside $48 million in reserves during fiscal 2021 for future homeowner compensation payments. The top 3 types of claims submitted in 2021 were as follows. Number 1, material and workmanship during first year represented 41% of claims. Number 2, major structural defects represented 16% of claims. And number 3, Ontario Building Code health and safety violations represented 9% of claims. Now, Tarion manages a guarantee fund to ensure there are financial resources available to support the warranty claims when they arise under the program, or to provide substantial protection against a catastrophic claims event. Tarion's balance sheet remains strong, and the guarantee fund grew by $69.5 million to end the year at $754.3 million. The guarantee fund is governed under the investment policy approved by the board and professionally managed by 6 asset managers, focusing on preserving capital and liquidity and satisfying the risk appetite suitable for Tarion's operations. approximately $297 million of the guarantee fund supports Tarion's equity position. Every year, Tarion conducts plausible worst-case scenario tests with oversight by our appointed actuary and has voluntarily adopted the required best practices that are applied by the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions in regulating financial institutions that have financial and risk profiles like Tarion. Tarion has made investments to increase capacity and expand its digital infrastructure and tools in 2021. This included increasing resources to handle increased demands for inspections, improve cybersecurity, and digital platforms which deliver new services, faster access to information, and enabling greater connectivity for homeowners, builders, and Tarion. Tarion also successfully completed the transition of its licensing activities to the new regulator, the Home Construction Regulatory Authority. Tarion achieved a number of significant milestones on its transformation journey in 2021 as it managed pandemic-related challenges while achieving an ending equity position that is well positioned to support future expected homeowner compensation as required.
Our thanks to Mr. Lee for his remarks. I now would like to invite Tarion CEO Peter Balasubramanian to make his remarks.
Thank you, Nigel, and thank you to everybody who came here today and those of you at home who are watching this hybrid event via the internet. It is nice to have the opportunity to interact with people in person. I'm sure I'm not alone in that experience. I did have an opportunity early as people were coming in to chat with a few of you. One of the things that came up, I spoke to a few people who were new homeowners and had some questions about the process. So I want to say at the outset, the nature of this APM and the presentation I'm about to give is a little bit backward looking. We're looking at 2021. There was a lot that we accomplished and a lot of challenges we faced in 2021. That's what primarily we'll be discussing. There's information available about the warranty process itself if you're a new homeowner or a builder on the registration process, and I would encourage you to take a look at the Tarion website. There's a homeowner portal there that has information around the different warranties and how you process a claim. So we're not going to get too much into that. If you have a specific question, there will be a Q&A, and I know many of you are here to get to the Q&A, so I will try to keep my remarks brief so that we can get to the Q&A portion. But if you have a question about the process and how your claim might be handled, that's a great thing to reach out to the folks behind us or behind you at the back of the room, our warranty staff who've agreed to participate and answer your questions personally. As I said, this is the first hybrid meeting we've ever done. I don't know if it's all going to go smoothly. At the end of the process, we will be doing a survey of all of the attendees here and those of you who are viewing at home. And I encourage you to give us your feedback on what worked and what didn't, what's the right information balance, what's most helpful to you as our stakeholders. And that's information that we'll take in to help us improve these kinds of sessions as we go forward. Now, I do want to touch on a number of specific topics relating to the work that we did in 2021. And these include COVID-19 and the operational impacts they had on our organization, key changes to Tarion's regulatory framework along with our new mission and vision, our ongoing commitment to public accountability, of which meetings like this represent one aspect of it, and highlights of some of our progress and improvements that we've made in 2021, including the work that we've done addressing the recommendations of the report by the Auditor General, who came and did a review of the organization in 2019. And finally, I'll do a very brief look ahead to 2022 and beyond. So starting with COVID and its operations, COVID-19 continued to pose a challenge to Tarion in 2021, similar to challenges that it posed to many organizations across Canada and frankly across the world. In Ontario, as a reminder, in January 2021, there was actually a state of emergency that was declared. And over the following months, public health measures continued to evolve, and there were attendant construction delays, supply chain shortages, and repair backlogs similar to what we experienced in 2020. And those impacted homeowners and they impacted builders as well. And despite the impact that the pandemic was having on things like supply chains and the delivery of homes, in Ontario, the new home construction market continued to be strong. You heard Edmund talk about enrollments. In fact, the total number of enrollments in 2021 at 74,000 was more enrollments of new homes than we had seen in about 10 years. It's the highest volume in over a decade. Throughout the year, Tarion adjusted its operations. We took precautionary measures to protect the health and safety of employees, homeowners, builders, and stakeholders. And these measures included keeping Tarion's corporate office closed with staff working remotely. From time to time, we had to extend repair timelines for builders, acknowledging the practical realities of operating in a COVID environment, as well as using virtual inspections to try to resolve warranty issues where we could resolve them through that means, and implementing health and safety protocols for in-person inspections following the public health guidance that was being issued. In October 2021, in accordance with other designated authorities and public sector health guidance, Tarion also enacted a vaccine policy and a screening protocol for staff. And in 2021, this meeting itself was held virtually given the overall health environment we were experiencing. From an operations perspective, the COVID environment in 2021 did impact our service delivery in a number of ways. The impact of the emergency orders and health and safety protocols meant that in certain periods, inspections that people were asking for couldn't be scheduled. The environment also impacted trade availability, and supply chain problems impacted the ability of registered builders to be able to get the required products that they needed to effect repair. In addition, the ever-changing health environment created unanticipated volatility in terms of when conciliations that had been deferred before were coming back online, and it was a challenge for us to organize that logistically. We saw an increase in the number of calls and emails to our customer service team in 2021. The customer service team received over 93,000 phone calls and fielded over 100,000 emails, and that was a 20% and a 25% increase in volume from the year before. And I really think it's testament, or it reflects, the kind of changing information and changing policies that were in play in 2021 and the challenges that all of our stakeholders had figuring out how our processes were being impacted. To ensure that we could continue to provide the appropriate service levels, we increased our investment in resources, particularly in the warranty services space. We increased our resources in our operations group throughout the year. We saw in 2021 a 30% increase in the number of requests by homeowners for inspections in their home. In part, that was due to a deferral of inspections which couldn't happen in 2020 because the COVID health restrictions were so severe in that year. Notwithstanding these challenges, our overall performance as measured by an independent survey of home buyers remained strong. 85% of survey respondents said that Tarion did listen to their needs, was accessible, and was easy to do business with. In addition, about 84% of homeowners that were surveyed indicated that overall they had a favorable impression of the organization. In addition to the challenging environment in 2021 that we all experienced, that year also brought to completion several key regulatory changes that changed how we deliver our services to Ontario consumers. The most principal change has already been touched on, but I will discuss it in a little bit more detail, but it was the launch of the Home Construction Regulatory Authority, which was created and changed the historic responsibility of Tarion for builder licensing and professional conduct issues and shifted that to a new organization. And it was made possible by the passing of specific legislation that impacted this space. And that legislation was the Rebuilding Consumer Confidence Act. This created the new Home Construction Regulatory Authority, creating a new licensing body and achieved two key benefits for Ontario consumers. One, along with internal governance changes at Tarion that our chair has already discussed, the Rebuilding Consumer Confidence Act, in effect, made structural and legislative changes that help address any perceived conflicts of interest between the warranty management role that Tarion now has and the builder licensing role that now rests with the Home Construction Regulatory Authority. And two, again, along with supporting legislative changes, it sets the stage for each organization to have a clear mandate and a clear focus going forward. Now, there's more information about the role of the HCRA, including their own strategic plan, their role as regulator, and that can be found on their website. But let me provide a high-level outline for you of the different responsibilities that are now in play. The HCRA is responsible for setting the minimum standards for builder and vendor education, administering the builder licensing process, monitoring and deterring illegal building activity by unlicensed builders, managing the disclosure of licensing and other information about builders on the Ontario Builder Directory, and managing a builder's professional conduct aimed at improving the level of professionalism of builders in the province. Tarion's focus is now on administering the consumer protection program set out in the Ontario New Home Warranties Plan Act, including enrolling homes and projects in the program, along with the risk assessment that goes with that. And we also administer the warranty claims process that many of the new home buyers in the room might be familiar with, and the provision of compensation to homeowners where their builder is either unwilling or unable to live up to their warranty obligations. The launch of Tarion's new, more focused role was also supported by 4 new additions to our provincial mandate, and these are found in amendments to the legislation and in our public accountability agreement signed with the minister. These include a new provision enshrining our dispute resolution role, specifically identifying that we should promote the resolution of claims as soon as reasonably possible in accordance with the Act. Another provision has expanded Tarion's mandate to include promoting construction in Ontario of properly built homes for residential purposes. And in the administrative agreement, our objects now include maintaining a fair and safe and informed marketplace and promoting the protection of the public interest and consumers in particular. In turn, from a corporate perspective, we embraced this new landscape by developing a new mission and vision for the organization in 2020, which we'll be embracing and working with going forward. Our vision is that all new home buyers in Ontario have peace of mind that they're getting the home they were promised. And our mission is to give Ontario home buyers consumer protection and confidence that their homes are properly built. And we do this through fair issues resolution, education, and outreach. We want homeowners to receive excellent customer service and the best new home warranty program in Canada. These statements help align our activities and guide our strategic planning and resource investments in support of consumer and our stakeholder focus. 2021 also represented a key year for us in terms of our ongoing commitment to public accountability. As an administrative authority in a not-for-profit organization, as our chair discussed, we have a unique level of accountability to the people of Ontario. And we have a kind of accountability and independence that private insurance companies, for example, may not have. We are accountable to the public in a number of ways, through the public information and operational reporting that we provide via our annual report, including the publication of executive and board compensation on our website. We're accountable to the ministry itself, and we work closely with them on regulatory improvements. We are subject to the independent review by the Auditor General's Office of Ontario, and we continue to work on the recommendations that come out of their 2019 report. We are accountable to the legislature by way of the Standing Committee of Public Accounts. We are accountable to our new Home Ombuds Office. We are accountable, and our decisions may be appealed to the License Appeal Tribunal, which is an independent body operating and reporting to the Attorney General of the province. And we also have financial accountability, both in terms of our internal corporate governance structures, and because our financials are published and audited each year by an independent auditor in our annual report. In terms of public accountability, I also want to stay for a moment and talk and provide a little more context about the Auditor General's report in 2019 and their comprehensive value for money review of Tarion's operations that they completed. The Auditor General's 2019 report contained 32 specific recommendations with over 70 specific action items. The report identified challenges that Tarion had in terms of its perception as a consumer protection organization, and it laid out a specific blueprint for change and improvement to address those challenges. We fully committed as an organization to address those issues and build a better program. Over the course of 2020 and 2021, Tarion made improvements in a number of areas, including the governance changes that have already been discussed, implementing building code training and increasing our resources that relate to knowledge about the building code, providing more information and better information sharing with municipalities, improving the structural elements that ensure that the internal ombuds office operates with independence, improving and investing in our call center resources, developing a risk-based inspection program that didn't exist before, providing better information for homeowners at the right time, including providing information about pre-delivery inspections and what to look for on a more timely basis, and implementing an internal appeal process and implementing a mediation program to make dispute resolution easier for homeowners are among the improvements we implemented in 2021, going along with our commitment to address the issues and challenges posed by the Auditor General and raised by her team. At the end of 2021, as Harry mentioned, the Auditor General's team returned and conducted a further independent assessment and follow-up on our progress with respect to the blueprint for improvement that she had set out in 2019. The provincial auditors have published a comprehensive review of Tarion's progress. It can be found on the Auditor General's website, and it confirmed the full implementation of the improvements I listed, and it awarded Tarion an overall completion rate of 86% as of September 2021. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Tarion staff and management for their efforts over the course of those 2 years in staying focused on addressing the Auditor General's recommendations in keeping with our commitment to continue to rebuild consumer confidence in the warranty program. I'm proud that we were able to achieve what we achieved, even in the face of challenges posed by COVID and the additional workload to support the launch of the HCRA at the same time. There were other improvements that we achieved in 2021. I'll touch on only a couple of them. There were specific warranty coverage improvements, including an increase in the maximum coverage for common elements in a standard condominium project in Ontario to a maximum of $3.5 million, which is the highest such coverage in Canada. An increase in the maximum coverage for warranted damage caused by environmental harmful substances, which would include mold or radon, to $50,000. Again, that's the highest such coverage of any program in Canada. The elimination of the warranty cap that historically limited septic system problems to $25,000. It's now combined under the overall warranty cap of $300,000. And we also launched several public consultations on other consumer protection enhancements, including a recommendation to increase the maximum coverage for freehold homes from $300,000 to $400,000. That process is still ongoing. Looking ahead, we have heard commitments from all levels of government that they want to increase the supply of housing in the province and address housing affordability. We believe that a province that focuses on increasing housing supply has to also focus on the quality of the homes that are supplied. And so we see that we will have a critical role to play in supporting Ontario new home buyers and builders in the province as the province embarks on an ambitious agenda to increase housing supply over the coming years. Our focus in 2022 and onwards will continue to be on serving our stakeholders, completing our commitments that arose from the 2019 auditor's report, working with the ministry to complete the review of the $300,000 warranty limit for freehold homes, and continuing to look at our operational and staffing resources to ensure that we have invested in our processes so that they can meet the expectations of the new home buyers of Ontario. Thank you for your patience during my remarks. I'll now hand things back to Nigel, and we can move to the open Q&A.
Thank you, Mr. Balasubramanian. You may have noticed a couple of these people refer to me as Nigel. Just to set the record straight, I don't work for Tarion. I have no ongoing business relationship with Tarion, nor any family members involved with Tarion. I do not have a new home that's under warranty. My only engagement and involvement is as a moderator for this evening. It's a single engagement. And I happen to have done a similar engagement some years ago for them. So just in case you were wondering if we seem to be familiar, they're just very polite and pleasant people. Now, moving on to our, or maybe I'm a polite and present person. We'll move on to our question and answer period. We have both in-person and virtual attendees, and as I mentioned before, we've got well over 300 people registered online. So we're going to take questions from the room and questions from people online, and I think what I'll end up doing is alternating between microphone 1, microphone 2, and perhaps as many as 2 questions from online over here, which will, Gina Argidis from Tarion will speak those questions from those submitted by people online, which again, they can do at apm2022@tarion.com. Again, let me remind you, the questions need to be of general application rather than specific to your property. If you do have a specific question regarding your property, as I said before, the warranty services agents at the back of the room are more than happy to attempt to help you with that. So we've got 2 microphones, microphone 1, microphone 2. And I'd ask that you, even if you have a great voice, use microphone 1 and microphone 2. That's where we'll take the questions from, because we're recording this. People are watching online, and they won't necessarily catch your question unless it's made from a microphone. So we're going to enforce that rule. We would ask your question be a single question, so not a multi-part question. I have one question that's got 12 parts. No. If you have more than one question, I suspect, given the crowd here tonight, I suspect if after you ask your question, you beetle to the back of the shortest line, whether it be the same microphone or the other microphone, you'll be able to get your other question or questions in without any difficulty. So that shouldn't be a problem. There's no supplementaries. Again, this isn't a debate. It's the opportunity to ask questions of these people here tonight. The only thing we ask is that you be respectful and polite, of course. So with that in mind, let me begin and ask for the first question from microphone number 1. So do we have anybody at microphone number 1? And I ask for that because I don't see anybody at microphone number 2. Sir, yes, sir, please, if you could state your name and where you're from. And if you know the person to whom you'd like to address your question, do that, or else we'll attempt to field it from here.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Frank McGinnis. I'm from Nestleton, Ontario. My question is, why does the warranty department take years to respond to warranty claims?
Why does the warranty department take years to respond?
Any
Velakis?
one of the 4 would be great to respond.
Fair enough. I'll start. That's okay. We should not be taking years to respond. COVID has added, unfortunately, timelines to that. But once a warranty claim is filed, the builder is given 120 days to respond. And unfortunately, because of the COVID and the various emergency orders throughout the province in the last 2 years, we've had to stop inspections and stop builder repair periods because of those provincial orders. But in a typical case, it should not take years. And if you are dealing with something that has been taking years, then we should certainly look at your particular file, and of course we can speak to you. You can wait to speak to me after, or you can speak to one of our reps in the back. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Microphone number 2, please.
Thank you, Nigel. I'm actually surprised to see you here because I was at the last meeting you moderated for Tarion, and my recollection, it didn't actually go that well. But my question actually is for Edmund Lee, but perhaps Peter, maybe you can address it. In the years between 2008 and 2013, Tarion was actually disclosing very detailed financials to the U.S. government under a 990 non-for-profit filing. Yet to Ontario homeowners, it's a very superficial financial report that is provided. So my question is, for this year and for all upcoming years, can you provide publicly on your website the very detailed line item income statement so that homeowners can actually see how much Tarion spends on legal costs, advertising, conferences, conventions, and some other things that are more productive like information technology?
Mr. Ballas Subramanian.
So I'm not actually familiar with the U.S. disclosure that you're speaking to, but I can say that part of our commitment to transparency is that we disclose our financial statements. Those financial statements are prepared according to generally accepted accounting principles, and we are committed to disclosing that, and we are meeting the disclosure obligations that are set out in the administrative agreement with the government. If there's additional detail that you believe we should be disclosing, I think that's something that I'd encourage you to send that in. You have my email address. You can send that to me. We'd be prepared to look at whether or not there's information there that would be disclosed, for example, in the annual report. I can say that there's additional detail that we do provide in the annual report that's not in the financial statements. For example, in the Standing Commission on Public Accounts, there was a question raised about disclosure of legal expenses. That focused specifically on external legal costs, and we have undertaken to disclose that. And in fact, in the 2021 annual report, there is information contained in there about external legal expenses paid in 2020 and 2021, I believe. So there are other places where you may find information that's relevant outside of the financial statements themselves. So I hope that answers your question.
Sure, and I'll send you a copy of your 990 from the latest year in 2013 if you'd like it.
Thank you. Microphone number 1, please, or excuse me, I should go to online. We've done one. We have some questions online already. So if we could have perhaps the first of 2 from there. Gina?
We just bought our first house with little money left over. If the builder does not do repairs, I have read that Tarion will backstop the warranty. What does that mean? Does Tarion hire contractors to do the work?
Tarion may hire contractors or may end up providing a monetary settlement, but the first thing we need to do is allow the builder in to do the repairs. If the builder doesn't, we will come in and do an inspection and then determine whether the items claimed are actually covered under the warranty. And if they are covered under the warranty and your builder does not resolve them with you, then Tarion will step in and resolve them with you, either by a monetary settlement or conducting repairs, depending on what the issues and circumstances are in your individual situation.
Yeah, I would add to that the term backstop can be a confusing one. It's really meant to convey that it's the builder that builds the house, and it's the builder that stands behind the quality of the product that they deliver. I can tell you that if you look at the data that we have in terms of the claims that we receive, the vast majority of builders in Ontario stand behind their product, and the vast majority of warranty issues are resolved directly between the homeowner and the builder. But in those rare cases where a builder's unable or unwilling to do it, that's the backstopping. That's where we would work with the homeowner in order to address the claim. And in terms of the question about hiring contractors, I think the first thing to remember is the way that the Ontario New Home Warranties Program is structured is that in the event that a builder fails to live up to its obligations and there is a warranted item, our role is to administer compensation from the guarantee fund. There is a provision in the legislation which allows us to, instead of paying compensation, get a third party to do the work. That third party could be the builder. Now, in certain situations, that's not possible because, for example, the builder may be insolvent, or the trust relationship with the homeowner may be such that they won't let the builder in. And in those cases, the compensation scheme, the way it's drafted, is that it provides for Tarion to do the work, but really the legislation suggests that that work should be done where it's in mitigation of the damage. So where it would be cheaper, for example, to hire a contractor to do the work rather than pay compensation. So there are a lot of factors which go into it. And as Sophie said, we tend to deal with this on a case-by-case basis. I would say the situations in which we find ourselves working to do the contract repair, which is something we're not structured organizationally to do in all cases because of the amount, that would cost us to be able to do all the repair work. But where we tend to do it is where the items involved are health and safety and there's an urgency about it, or where there might be a capacity issue and the homeowner's really in a dire situation where they need kind of a consumer protection assistance. So it tends to be on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you. And a second question from those online?
When was the last time that Tarion increased the out-of-pocket expenses for late closure, and how much has the cost of living increased during that time?
Okay. Which of you would like to field that?
I mean, I'll field that. I don't have the answer to that question. I know that the delayed closing compensation has not changed in a number of years, and we can undertake to, when we publish the answers, we can do that. And I will acknowledge that the CPI index, particularly, I mean, I think we're all feeling it right now with inflation. I think we would acknowledge that there have been inflationary effects that have been in play since that warranty cap was reviewed.
Thank you. To microphone number 1, please.
Yes, my question is for...
If you could identify yourself, please.
My
just
name
for
is Barbara Captain.
Thank
I'm
you.
a consumer advocate.
Okay.
I would like this question for the board chair and the CEO. The question is simple. Why do you require non-disclosure agreements at the end of your mediation process, your external mediation? The reason I'm asking that is that if you're telling consumers you have to research builder records, how are we going to research builder records when everybody's been sworn to silence? An NDA, the ones you're forcing consumers to sign, are unlimited in time and geographical scope, meaning forever and a day, the consumer can't speak a word about what this builder has done in terms of construction defects if it goes to mediation. That's against your consumer protection mandate. It's against the public interest mandate of the regulator to whom you are supposed to pass information about building code defects, misconduct issues. All of that is now, if you move further and further into your external mediation process, it's becoming secret. We are being silenced. NDAs never protect the victim. They protect people who have something to hide. And yet, from the one side of your mouth, you're telling us research your builder. And the other side of your mouth, after mediation, you're saying you can't say a word about what this builder did to you,
Okay.
even if there was misconduct involved. The builder directory you've rendered useless. That's against the consumer protection mandate of Tarion and against the public interest mandate of the HCRA, who's the new regulator. I'm asking you to stop NDAs in your mediation, your external mediation. Please stop them. They only protect people other than us, the homeowner.
Let's allow Mr. Subramanian to start, I believe.
I appreciate the question, Barbara. I think we've had some exchanges and dialogue around confidentiality. I think the first thing that I want to make absolutely clear to everyone in the room and folks listening is that Tarion does not use non-disclosure agreements in the resolution of warranty claims. There are situations where confidentiality does arise. Civil litigation is an area where confidentiality arises. And to your specific question, mediations, kind of voluntary mediations where we try to resolve things in a kind of a non-legal setting. And I'll finish this response, and if there's further questions about how the mediation works, I think Sophie's better positioned to respond. But I do think it's important to say two things about the confidentiality in a mediation. And I acknowledge that there's a disagreement between our view of a mediation and the consumer advocacy position that you're taking. Our view on a mediation is that a mediation is intended to be informal, and it's intended to be an opportunity where people can sit down without a lawyer there and just have an open airing of their interests and the issues that they face in the hopes of trying to achieve a settlement. And in order to promote open discussion and ideally create an environment where a settlement is most likely, we try to do that in a confidential setting. That's generally best practice by mediation professionals. And the agreements that you're referring to are actually private agreements used typically by the mediators. And then finally, the most important part is that the mediations that we offer are done pursuant to a regulation that was passed as part of the Rebuilding Confidence in Consumers legislation. And that legislation provides that the mediations that happen under our legislation are meant to be confidential. So the suggestion that there is some attempt to have a non-disclosure component that we're adding to it isn't right. And I won't kind of agree with that characterization of what's happening. I will say that we do have confidential mediations, which are voluntary. And if you in your work in consumer advocacy come across an individual, or if there's even somebody in this room or who's watching tonight who feels that they have been asked to engage in confidentiality that they don't think is right, I'd encourage you to have them reach out to me, because I would certainly waive the confidentiality if there was good reason to do so.
Mr. Balasubramanian, can you send me the part of the legislation where you say the legislation says that there has to be confidentiality in mediation?
Yes, Barbara, I've already emailed that to you, but I'll be happy to email it to you again.
Microphone number 2, please.
Sure. As Tara knows, one of my complaints for a number of years has been the builder directory, certainly when it was managed by Tarion. In fact, even Tarion themselves had acknowledged it is not necessarily reliable and shouldn't be reliable as an only source of information. In fact, if you look at the builder directory back when it was by Tarion and now when it's by HICRA, it essentially is useless because the builder records are pristine by and large. So in fact, if the Ontario builder industry is as clean as indicated today on the HICRA, there is no need for Tarion because we have the best building industry in the world. So it is a little bit comical of the amount of information that is posted. But what is very interesting, I've had discussions with HICRA, and they point that the validity of their current builder directory is only as valid as the information provided to them by Tarion. So the question is that the Ontario Standing Committee on Public Accounts made a number of recommendations of information that is to be provided, and my question is all of this information being provided to HICRA, meaning all results of any investigations by Tarion, any past convictions by Tarion, the number and percentage of homes with major structural defects that a builder constructed each year, the amount of money a builder paid or owed to Tarion, the number of defects under warranty that a builder refused to repair, and the number of defects that the builder refused to repair that were due to the builder's non-compliance with the building code, and any cancellations. And all of these are regardless of whether Tarion deemed them chargeable or not. All of this information should be dumped, unbiased, unfiltered by Tarion, so that HICRA can then decide what it should post or not post. So my question, is this being done at the moment so that HICRA can have a valid, reliable, and usable builder directory for new homeowners to pick builders?
Thank you for your question.
Yeah, so I will say, make sure Mike can pick it up. I picked up a few of the points that you were raising. I can say that certainly, as we speak, professional compliance investigations, past convictions, cancellations, just to pick 3 examples, I believe they're currently published on the website. I can also say that we work closely with the HCRA and provide them with the information that we have available to us. You used the word information dump. I don't have the technical word on how we're structured to provide that information, but we do share data. We have an information sharing agreement with the HCRA, and we comply with the obligations for information disclosure that are provided for in the legislation, and will cooperate with the HCRA to make the Ontario Builder Directory as good as it can be in order to meet the mandate of the two organizations. And I would say a couple of things here. I would say, first of all, we have acknowledged that there are some challenges with the Builder Directory. There are challenges in terms of how the information can be interpreted. There are challenges around what information, and people disagree about what information should go on it. I will say that the Ontario Builder Directory, based on my review of what's available in any other province in the country, that the Ontario Builder Directory provides more information about registered builders than you will find anywhere else, including, as we said before, history of cancellation, past convictions, whether they're licensed or not, which at the end of the day is a very useful piece of information for consumers to look at to determine whether or not their builder is licensed or not licensed. And I will also say that it is some of the challenges around the interpretation of the disclosure relate to the chargeability issue that you just mentioned, which is that the information that we disclose or that we provide to the HCRA to disclose is really around what evidence do we have about whether the builder has met the customer service standard and its warranty obligations under the legislation. And there is a set of rules that are publicly available in Registrar Bulletin 4, which is available on the Tarion website, that set out all of the exceptions which might apply and might impact disclosure. And I know that we've had some challenges in the past with people debating whether or not those exceptions are appropriate or not appropriate. And I'm open to, and I think our organization is open to having a dialogue which would include homeowners' views, views of consumer advocates, as well as views of the industry and policymakers on what we want the Builder Directory to be. You're hearing in my language a little bit of an echo of the role that we used to play, because it's not our ship to sail anymore, but certainly from an information provision basis, if the policymakers decide to include additional information in the Builder Directory, or if the Home Construction Authority decides to provide additional or different information, I can assure you that Tarion will work cooperatively with that organization to provide all of the information it needs to meet that disclosure.
Okay, if we can go to the online questions now. Do you have another one?
I do. I have heard these terms, but am confused as to what each means. Could you please explain what each means and at what point they would be used? And there's 3 terms: mediation, customer service gesture, and tribunal.
Okay. So who would like to address that?
So the first word is mediation. A mediation, Tarion offers a mediation after a warranty assessment is made. If the homeowner wishes, they can ask for a mediation where Tarion will work with that homeowner to schedule the mediation. The homeowner will choose an independent mediator, and Tarion will attend with the homeowner only and try to resolve the claim or the assessment that they disagree with that homeowner. So that takes place after a warranty assessment is issued. The tribunal, because I'll do that one next because it makes sense, is the License Appeal Tribunal, and that is the independent provincial tribunal that an assessment that a homeowner disagrees with can hear. The homeowner can appeal that assessment to the tribunal within 30 days of receiving a decision letter. So if they disagree with an assessment, they can go to a mediation. If the mediation does not settle, they can go to the tribunal, or they can not go to a mediation and go to the tribunal directly. It's their choice. A customer service gesture, in certain circumstances, the warranty issue that a homeowner identifies, it's not clear whether it is a warranty defect or not. And in those circumstances, if, in extenuating circumstances, for example, if it's a health and safety issue or something like that, and the homeowner is left without another recourse, we do take our consumer protection mandate seriously, and we may offer them some resolution to their issue to assist them to get kind of over the hump or to just resolve that claim with them. Again, it depends on the circumstances. It's a case-by-case basis, and we don't offer them in every case. Again, it's in extenuating circumstances that we would offer them, and in cases where it's not clear that the issue is in fact warranted. So we wouldn't be able to hold the builder accountable, but Tarion will make the decision to extend some sort of gesture to resolve a claim.
Thank you. We have a second question that's come in tonight
Yes.
again.
So a question about the investment assets for Tarion. I think we heard Mr. Lee say that it is investment managers that manage the assets, and the question is which ones, and who establishes the investment policy and asset allocation?
Okay. Mr. Chair.
I think I can address that partially. I couldn't give you the names of firms that are asset managers. There's 6 names, but they're definitely very reputable companies. They are probably in the leadership role in the asset management field. Having said that, with respect to the investment policy, it's a policy designed by the board of directors that has an investment committee. Includes very suave, I would say, very much an expert level folks with financial literacy, with investment experience, who oversee that entire process.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Microphone number 1 again, please.
Hi, it's Frank McGinnis from Nestleton again. Is a question and more of an observation or an area for improvement. For the last 4 years, I've been emailing, phone calling, and corresponding with Tarion customer service reps, and I'm up to 25 people, which is great because I now know 25 people in Tarion, plus you 4 and 3 people at the back there. Is it not excessive to have 25 customer service reps for one house? Because every time I get a new person, I have to reiterate the story and bring them up to date. And so you think, in my head, I think there's a file somewhere on my house that they should be able to go to say, where is this file at? But for 25 times over the last 4 years, I've had to repeat that process. So that's kind of what I'm asking for. There's an area for improvement there that needs to change. And is this commonplace, is I guess my question.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you for your comment. Like, I really do appreciate that feedback. It is, I 100% agree with you, excessive. I do not think that that is the case, and I'm not, your particular case is what it is, and we will talk about that separately offline, but that is not what we strive for, and I do appreciate the feedback, absolutely. And we'll look into it and gain some learnings from your particular situation.
Yeah, I would just add too that I think it's a really good recommendation for improvement. I know in 2021, one of the things I didn't refer to in my remarks earlier was that the organization did make an investment in upgrading its customer relationship management software, which was something that hadn't been invested in a while, and I would hope, and my expectation would be that one of the benefits we would see out of that investment would be to address that, but more important than the technology is the people, and Sophie is the people here. So I think she's heard that comment, and I'm going to be interested to see what we come up with. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone number 2, please.
And I would encourage others to get up and ask questions, but since there's no one here, this is on behalf of any homeowners that have future meetings with Tarion, and it's a question maybe for Sophie. But up till now, and in fact, even at a previous annual public meeting at Tarion, there were notes on all the sheets saying that attendees were not allowed to record the proceedings. I'm pleased to see those were not there today because Tarion has had issues with their own recordings in previous APMs. But are homeowners, or why are homeowners precluded from video recording or audio recording meetings or PDI inspections with builders or with Tarion representatives?
Okay.
So I can't speak to the recordings of pre-delivery inspections because that's just with us in the builder, but I can tell you that Tarion has recently updated rather, its recording policy. It's on our website. We do allow meetings with Tarion and inspections to be recorded upon prior notice. So as long as we're given notice on the prior to the inspection taking place, we do allow it. It's, like I said, on our website. The policy was recently posted, and all the details are there, and so is the form.
Sorry, quick question. Why is notice even required then? Because it's a public setting, there's no expectation of privacy, so.
I would just, I think that, look, I think that, you know, from my perspective in terms of leadership of an organization like ours, which has a customer-facing aspect, we have to balance the, you know, the needs of consumers to videotape and take a recording, and also their right to do so, with the right for employees to have a sense of privacy and to be free of a harassing workplace. And it's difficult to say it because I don't want to live in a world where this is true, but the truth of the matter is that we're in an environment, and you see it whenever you turn on the news, you'll see examples of this, where people will film people and they will take clips of the images, they will post them on social media for the purpose of embarrassment or harassment. And that is something that I think every corporation has an obligation to manage and be proactive and balance what's fair. So I think the element of simply asking a person who wishes to film a Tarion employee to just simply give us notice is a very non-intrusive way of trying to strike that balance, because I fully believe and I fully accept that the vast, vast, vast majority of consumers who wish to record anything, including an event like this, are not doing it for the purpose of you know, anything to create difficulties. They're doing it because they want an accurate record of what's happening. And I believe that is the vast majority. But when we're creating those policies, I think it's incumbent upon organizations to strike that right balance, and that's what we attempted to do. Now, if there are folks that review the policy and don't think that we've struck the right balance, we're open to dialoguing on that. And in fact, the recent changes that we implemented, and I know Barbara's in the room, I would say some of the recent changes that we implemented came about from exactly that kind of dialogue, where consumer advocate groups looked at our recording policy and suggested that we didn't strike the right balance. So the policy that's there now that Sophie is referring to, we think it does, but if it doesn't, we're happy to continue a dialogue about it.
Okay. Thank you for that information. That's positive news. I will review it, and I'll let you know what I think.
Thank you. Ms. Argydas, our next question from our online participants, please.
Is Tarion currently doing any research related to achieving a progressive improvement in the quality of housing in Ontario in all its aspects concerning new materials, new technology, new construction methods? If yes, what is that? If no, why not?
Okay, interesting question.
Yeah, no, it is a good question, and I think that I've been involved in the program for a while, and I know at different points in time, the organization invested specifically in research type programs, and I think that's important. I can tell you that in the 2021 budget and in the 2022 budget, we haven't earmarked significant funds for research programs, and I think that is something that the organization should be looking at doing when the time is right. And the answer to the question, but why not? You know, really the answer is a pretty practical one. Since 2020, we have been laser focused on delivering the changes that have come out of the Auditor General's report. It was indicated that it was a clear blueprint to build a better program. And, you know, in my experience, you can't execute on a transformational change of the nature that the Auditor General set before us without laser focus. So part of that is deferring other elements and other spending, and really investing in significant research programs wasn't something that we were able to do. I will say that we have created the Builder risk-based inspection program, and through that program there are opportunities to provide information and best practices to builders, and there are other things that we do that I believe kind of connect to that virtuous circle of learning from what we see, and then making sure that those those learnings are passed on to industry to promote better building. But the short answer is, at this time, we don't have a significant component of our budget dedicated to specifically to research, and that's certainly something that in the future we would be looking at.
Okay. Is there Jesus? Next question, please.
Can you shed any light on canceled projects, and do you expect more canceled projects given economic changes?
So we deeply sympathize with the difficult situation that homeowners end up being in when there is a canceled project. There are a number of factors that could happen that could result in that project being canceled. Sometimes it's a lack of sales. Sometimes it's a lack of approvals. Tarion does look into those situations. When asking, do we foresee some happening in the future? Cancellations have been happening for a number of years. So chances are there's going to be some in the future. In the underwriting department, when we're looking at new projects, we do look at the capital availability of the vendors and the builders. We look at their external budgets. We look at the amount of security that they can give us or the indemnitors that they can provide so they can backstop those the warranties in case the cancellation doesn't happen. What else I can say is that, you know, it's inevitable that there are going to be cancellations, and I think when you buy a pre-constructed condo, there is a risk that that condo could get delayed and or canceled. But as a consumer, if you feel that the builder is not acting with honesty and integrity, we've talked before about that the other organization, the Home Construction Regulatory Authority, is an entity that if you have complaints about a builder's honesty and integrity with regards to that cancellation, you can certainly submit claims to them, and that's something that they would look into.
Yeah, Kevin, I would also add that, you know, in the past when we've seen condo cancellations, some of the factors that are in play which caused the project not to go forward relate to increased input costs, you know, spiking costs of lumber that we saw last year, and also delays, because time is money in that construction space. So the project is really delayed, then it creates kind of creates financial pressure. And to the extent that the person who asked this question is asking whether or not the current environment increases the risk of a cancellation, and when I think of current environment, I'm thinking of uncertainty due to global events, supply chain issues which are continuing to impact. COVID is not over in terms of the impact on supply chains. We're seeing the COVID impacts you have to think about are where the products are coming from. So what's happening in China, what's happening in Europe, what's happening in the places where the kitchens are being delivered. And we're seeing those impacts are still around, they are increasing, there is higher levels of uncertainty. I don't really have an answer to the question about condo cancellations other than to say the kinds of factors that I'm observing in the broader economic environment are not the kind of factors which make it less risky. So certainly I do think there is an element of caution, and there are other sources of information on this we're seeing from CMHC as well as other sector experts to talk about this issue, and I think it's something that everyone has to pay attention to going forward.
Okay. Thank you. Microphone number one. Ma'am, your name and where you're from, please.
My name is Nina Deeb. I've been a real estate broker for 26 years. And a comment I'd like to make is during the initial comments, Tarion said that they are self-sustained, independent of the industry. That is absolutely incorrect. You should know where your money comes from. So the bill that goes to the builder gets passed on to the customers, but your finances still come from the industry. That's the first comment I'd like to make. Some of your finances do come from the interest earned on your reserve funds. Now, I have a question for the CFO. $754 million in this guarantee fund. The previous year, you had $76 million in sales, and this year, this report, you're putting $70 million into this reserve guarantee fund. This is getting close to $1 billion. This is the consumers' money that they have paid that has gone into these funds. I find these reserves that are being held through these delegated authorities and through all councils, in fact, throughout this province, there's an extreme amount of money, of our economic money, that is trapped in these reserves. I question why Tarion needs to have near $1 billion in a reserve fund, and why Tarion is moving nearly its entire sales from the previous year into this reserve fund.
Okay, as we heard earlier, Mr. Lee isn't here, and I'm sure that your question's been recorded and it will get a detailed response. But would anyone like to speak to?
Yeah,
to the
I
extent you can?
think I can make an attempt at answering both parts of her question. First of all, when you question our statement about being self-sustained, that pertains to the financial viability of the organization. You need funds to run the organization that Tarion is, to run the program. So in that sense, whatever the pricing of our warranty program is, that is enough to sustain the organization, but that is even not enough unless we had that investment fund that brings the interest income that you referred to. So you cannot look at the operations of Tarion in a very siloed manner. If we did not have the investment fund and we didn't have the income flow from that fund, the premiums for the house, for the warranty program would probably be, we have done some analysis, it would likely be closer to 2.5 times of what is being paid by way of premiums. So if you think about it, that is a very, very good program. When you look at a 7-year coverage, you have 400,000 homes being covered, and the value of those homes in today's marketplace at the warranty level, that risk that Tarion takes, is about $1.2 trillion. When you look at the cost of the program that is being run, that underwritten risk is $1.2 trillion. So you have to understand the size and complexity of this organization and the financial wherewithal that you need to manage that in going forward. And this is not just Tarion's board of directors or the management coming up with numbers. This is sustained based on verification by actuaries, by appointed independent actuaries that say that financially, to manage this risk, this is what the board must do, and that's what we have in place. So please look at it in a very comprehensive manner. So just take all of that into account when you're commenting on it.
Yeah, I would just add, the point about where the money comes from. So if there was any confusion about that, I think that was absolutely, you're quite correct. The enrollment fees come from the vendor under the statute. And I would also acknowledge, from a layperson's perspective, certainly, like, there's a lot of money in the guarantee fund. And as Harry says, the nature of insurance is such that you need reserves. And it is the amount of money in the guarantee fund was something that was reviewed, for example, by the Auditor General, with a view to determining whether or not the reserves were sufficient. There's something that a lot of folks don't know. If you're not kind of in the space, you may not know that British Columbia, for example, had a home warranty program where, due to leaky condominium crisis, so one single kind of catastrophic event that happened, that provincial program faced claims upwards of $1 billion. And in Quebec, because of a catastrophic issue involving concrete, they had claims that were closing in on $200 million. So as Harry mentioned, when you look at 400,000 homes under warranty at $300,000 of liability each, that's $1.2 trillion of liability that the organization's really looking at. You get a better sense of the scope, and you can't just look at the number. You can't look at the number on its own. So what I'm talking about is kind of my own experience as I went through the process of educating myself to understand why the money's there. I see my role, part of my role in this organization is to ensure and work with our CFO and our investment managers and our board of directors to ensure that there's sufficient capital in the fund. I mean, the important thing here is we're a not-for-profit organization, so the surplus that's built is not profit for a private company. The surplus that is built in that guarantee fund is there for future Ontarians to give you peace of mind and confidence that if a catastrophic situation happens, we would be able to step up the plate and back it. So, I think that's, hopefully that answers a little bit of the question, but I totally appreciate where it's coming from.
Thank you. Microphone number 2, please.
Yes, this is another question for the board chair and CEO. You've announced in your business plan that the internal ombudsperson, your new homeowner ombudsperson, has taken up additional consumer protection activities, but you don't say what those are. And wouldn't you think for a consumer protection agency that she would be there on stage with you? Is Ms. Moriarty here today, your internal ombudsperson who's supposed to be helping with the consumer protection task? Where is that person today?
Mr. Chair.
Well, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah,
You wanna start
thank
off?
you.
I can add to it if you like.
Yeah, absolutely, and Harry, please feel free to add to it. I would just say first, and it's my apology, I'm not familiar with that specific reference in the business plan. I don't know, I'm not aware of an expansion specifically of her mandate, but I can direct you and anyone who's interested in what the Ombuds Office has done is they issue an independent report. If I just may finish my answer, the Tarion Ombudsperson is not here, and part of that I think is it's really important to talk about it because to me it reflects a little bit of the journey that we are taking to try to be a better program and really to listen and act on recommendations and suggestions for improvement made by consumer advocates such as yourself as well as the Auditor General. In 2019, as well as the annual meeting in 2018, consumers and the Auditor General did raise questions about the structural independence of the internal ombudsperson. And through that process, we came up with a host of specific steps to ensure that we modeled the best practices that an organization could model for independence, which included not having the ombudsperson sit in front of consumers as part of management because she is independent. So I think it's great that you pointed that out because I really do think it reflects one of the steps that we've taken and that the auditor outlined for us to ensure that the Ombuds Office can both be independent but also be seen as independent from management in order to establish and do their function. Harry, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I think you covered it quite nicely. And what I would like to add is that when you ask about additional consumer protection activities, it's all encompassed in the terms of reference that are posted on our website. So it's fully there in full detail that the board has approved. And we had third-party advisors also provide us in detail after looking at the entire spectrum of ombuds roles in the province. So that's answer number one. The second part is that the ombuds operates fully under the board of directors umbrella. So here I am, and I'm prepared to take your comments back if they're meaningful. But we cannot just say that we should have a full fleet of executives here on the podium. But if you have specific questions, I'll be around here, and you can tell me which part is that you.
Just to clarify, sir, the ministry announced. You can look in the part of the ministry's recent announcements that your new homeowner ombudsperson had taken on, quote, additional consumer protection activities. And I'm simply asking you, because of the consumers here, what are those? I think it's a legitimate question.
It is. We can undertake to ask her, but I'd also encourage you to reach out to her because really we're I think it's a weird discussion, but we're walking the walk here. I mean, the ombudsperson is independent, and I'm not here to speak for her office, and I know she can speak for herself.
Okay. Questions from online participants, please.
Who approved the board chair's last pay increase of 35%, the board or the minister?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much. The approval for the full board compensation comes from the full board, and it's conducted under the auspices of the Human Resource Committee with the help of third-party advisors. And this is something that is very standard practice in establishing those compensation programs.
Next question from online.
What responsibility will Tarion bear with the loss of income due to company backlogs and extended delays of certifying builders because of staff shortage, et cetera, due to market instability? Many builders were not able to go to sale when the market was in favor of sales. Delays from Tarion has cost us millions in losses.
So we're talking about the new qualification for enrollment which is the new process for approving builders for building and selling of units. There's now a two-step process. So in the past, it would be Tarion that would grant the license or the renewal of the license, as well as the approval to build or sell additional units. Now the HCRA does the licensing side of things, and then the builder does need to come to Tarion with regards to approving the qualification. With regards to the loss of income, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. What I can tell you is we work with builders to get them approved as quickly as we can. If there are challenges, I always encourage builders to reach out and share those challenges with us. Share with us the timing of when they want to go to sales, and we'll work with them as quickly as possible to ensure that things get done in a timely manner.
Yeah, I would say, Kevin, and I won't put you on the spot to put your email address out there, but I would say if there's any registered builder here in the room or watching who's having an issue with that enrollment process and the timing of it, you can send an email to apm2022@tarion.com with the information, and Kevin Brody or someone from his team will get back to you, and we'll work with you to try and ensure that we provide you with the guidance and service that we can.
Okay, thank you very much. I see we've switched sides of the room. Just for the benefit of those online, if you would state your name from microphone number 1 and your question, please. And I would ask, we've got about 8 more minutes, so if you could keep your questions short, and I'll ask the panelists to keep their answers as short as possible, too.
Sure. My name, actually, I don't think I said it initially. It's Alex Patinos. This is actually a question that was texted to me by another homeowner. The Ontario Standing Committee recommended more meaningful performance measures in early 2021 regarding the homeowner survey. Why weren't they changed in 2021 as recommended?
So the reference is to the Standing Committee on Public Accounts recommendations. And I don't recall saying here today that they made a recommendation that was different from what was in the Auditor General's report. So it may be something that we need to undertake to provide you an answer with. But I can tell you that in 2021, we did make changes to the key performance indicators of the organization. In particular, we ensured that the key performance indicators were tied to consumer outcomes and they were not tied to financial outcomes, and that change was made. So it may be that there's a confusion, or either on the part of the person asking the question, or there may be something that I'm missing, and I'd be happy to, if there's further clarification, Alex, or on behalf of the person that's texting you, you can provide a follow-up question to me by email to the address here or to me personally, and I'll see if I can't get to the bottom of that question.
Okay. Thank you. Microphone number 2, anything further? Well, we'll go to, is there anybody? Nobody behind? Online question then.
Where can I find a list of canceled projects? Does Tarion provide this information?
The Ontario Building Directory, which is hosted by the HCRA, has a listing of the canceled condominium projects.
Okay. And the next question?
If there is a warranted item, does the homeowner have to accept monetary compensation, or can we request that Tarion corrects the warranted item? The homeowner does not have the skilled resources to correct, even if you give us a blank check.
Yeah, so I think I addressed this one earlier. The compensation scheme, the protection program, is structured to pay out. The entitlement of a homeowner in Ontario where a builder provides a house that has a problem in it, if the builder doesn't resolve the item, they're entitled to payment out of the guarantee fund. Tarion can direct the builder to remedy the issue, but if the homeowner doesn't want the builder to remedy the issue, it's only in rare cases we would undertake. And I should say that, again, it's a bit of a policy question. Should the provincial warranty program try and do the repairs? From my perspective, when I look at the structure of the program, 400,000 homes under warranty, and the scope of coverage, it would be very expensive for the organization to undertake repair work across the province. I'm not saying it's not a bad idea. I'm just saying it would be, under the current scheme, it's not consistent with the legislation, and it would be a real material change in the way that we're structured. So I won't go further because I did respond and we did provide detail on this question a bit earlier. If that's not responsive to the question that's asked, I would encourage the person who sent that question in to send a supplementary one, which we can get to after the APM is concluded.
All right, I see no further questions, and in fact, we're out of time. So that brings Tarion's 2022 annual public meeting to an end. On behalf of Tarion, I'd like to thank all of you for participating in this evening, those of you online as well as those of you here in attendance. Please note once again, if you have a question that's specific to your personal circumstance, Tarion warranty staff will be here for at least another half an hour. If you're online and there's a general question submitted that we didn't get to, we will endeavor to deal with those. And again, the APM 2022 at tarion.com will be available for a while. Tarion will be posting and compiling and posting all of the responses to the questions on their website. And staff will follow up with you if necessary from those online questions as well. Just a reminder, the evening's event was recorded and we expect it to be posted on Tarion's YouTube channel within the next 7 days. Thank you once again and for joining us at Tarion's 2022 annual public meeting. Thank you very much.
If I can just also quickly just say, I will also stay for the additional half an hour that my staff will be here. And if there's anyone here in the audience who may have a question, but they didn't feel comfortable kind of asking it in this kind of public forum, I'm happy to have an informal chat with you, and I will stay around as well. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.